Good evening. This is your host, Dan Stafford with the Midwestern Geek in Cali, video casting from 42 TARDIS Way here in lovely Temecula, California, less than a mile from Starlight Ridge, cool old classic subdivision, summer's winter home. Can you tell I love it here in Temecula? I do. I've got several stories to talk about here this evening. One little small side note, I made a little homemade on-air sign for the studio here so that I could put it on the door when I'm recording, if I'm going to be recording earlier in the evening. Right now, it's rather late. It's about midnight. Very appropriate to the show, but not necessarily conducive to me being wide awake and alert all the time as I'm doing these shows. However, onward to a few other fun things that we have to deal with in the video tonight. First off, happy Earth Day. I know it actually just ended a minute ago, but by the same token, I've been kind of celebrating it all day while doing Sunday chores and such. By wearing my Listen to Your Mother Earth t-shirt. And also that t-shirt I got probably 12, 13, 14 years ago at Triton College in one of the western suburbs of Chicago at the Cernan Earth and Space Center, which is at the college. They have a planetarium there. They also have a small gift shop. It's named after astronaut Eugene Cernan, who was one of the Apollo astronauts, I believe. I'd have to double check myself that he wasn't in one of the earlier programs, but I'm pretty sure he was one of the Apollo astronauts. And in the planetarium, they do, and have for years and years and years, they do laser light shows timed to classic rock concerts. And the light shows do all kinds of fun stuff. It's really kind of hypnotic and fun. And if you're into that, it's kind of old school geek cool. So, if you're in the Chicago area, maybe stop by Triton College one evening and check out the Cernan Space Center and the laser light show over there, or maybe go catch a planetarium show. You'll enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I really, really love that little place, and I haven't been there in a long time, but hopefully it's still there and still going, and I kind of think it is. All right. So first up, before Avengers Infinity War, watch every Marvel Comic Universe movie and TV show in the perfect order. This is an article by cnet.com. The link is in the show notes at www.midwesterngeekincali.com. This will be episode 44 coming up. So I haven't really titled the episode yet, so I can't give you that, but it's going to be episode 44. Look for that. Show notes there along with this video. And they basically are giving you a timeline of all the Marvel Comics Universe movies and TV series to watch in order. And they are actively seeking information on any either errors or additions to the timeline. So you might want to give it a look. If you're really conscious of timeline and like to keep things in order, it's a pretty nice thing to have in the back of your mind. Next up, we have the newest anti-poaching technology, robotic rhinos. Yeah, robotic rhinoceroses, like full size, powered by fuel cells that run with the herd. So they say. The pictures on this link are pretty amazing. They look like something right out of Marvel Comics. You should go check it out. It's pretty cool. Actually, I hope they do it. And yeah, who knows? Maybe they'll stampede over a few poachers' asses. I don't know. Can I say asses on a podcast? I guess I just did. Podcast / videocast / well, I started off as a podcast. Right now I'm videocasting. Occasionally I'm just going to podcast, mix it up, a little video, little audio. It all depends. So, all right. So this little on-air sign, I kind of had the idea to do it. My wife popped in one of the shows. If you watch all the episodes, you'll see one of the more recent shows. She popped in to put a couple of cans because 42 TARDIS Way is my garage. Yes, I videocast from my garage. And it's kind of a little bit my man cave. So, I dig it. I've got it set up for working on PCs. I've got it set up for doing podcasting and videocasting. I've got a lot of cool geek lights and stuff. I'm working. Eventually, I'm going to have a little bit of a backdrop here behind me, so it's not just staring at the garage walls and my classic Schwinns over there. However, on the theme of lights for the space, I've got some plasma lights going on. I've got a light up UFO over there, flying saucer type light that makes noises and sounds and stuff like that. Yeah, and I've got, a little bit of audio in here so that I can play internet radio at a pretty decent volume and stuff when I'm out working in the garage, actually working, and, rather than doing this. And today I got the idea to make an on-air light. So let me pop this up for you. Here you go. It's powered by a couple of LEDs, and it is made out of construction paper and cardstock with aluminum foil inside for a reflector. And the LED lights I picked up at a craft store. They're actually meant to illuminate wine bottles, and they are twist on and off, and they also are powered by USB rechargeable batteries. So I will be able to use this thing for a long time. It's kind of like old school radio, nostalgic, kind of goofy and fun and cool and whimsical. And I enjoy getting a little bit crafty or artsy every now and then. So had fun with it. And then let's go on to the next story here, because this one kind of is irking me a little bit. And here's the scoop. Google and carriers plan to replace SMS with a new protocol called chat. Yeah, SMS text messaging, like on your phone. You know how you text right now on your phone? They're talking about rolling out something called chat that Google has been working apparently behind the scenes. This is from howtogeek.com, by the way. And they've been working behind the scenes with multiple carriers, almost every carrier on the planet, trying to upgrade and update SMS text to a new protocol that will have group, fully functional group text, in text videos, in text pictures. They've been trying to leverage text messaging for the longest time. All of these social media companies, tech companies, etc. All right, this message is for Google and all of the other tech companies out there. You don't get it, what texting is about. You really just don't get it, obviously. It's like the last place on electronic communications where you can just pop through a short message to your friends and family without all the BS and all the clutter. And, it's not meant for lengthy communications. That's what email is for. If you want to upgrade a communications system, work on email. It really could use some help. But leave text the hell alone. It's the last place where we can actually communicate without all the damn clutter. Jesus, why don't you get that? It's like this is where you go when you need to get a message through. Don't screw with it. I mean, when you're in a place with spotty cell phone coverage, a lot of times you could get a text message through when you can't get a phone call or anything else through, because it just needs a momentary connection to send that one little pipsqueak, barely any data through, to get just a little bit of text through. You might actually be able to communicate with text messaging. Leave it alone. People need an uncluttered communications channel. You got email spammed to death. Social media is utterly distracting as hell everywhere, which way you go. Leave text messaging alone. Why can't you understand that? Just one channel that we can actually communicate on without all the BS and clutter. One. All right? You've got everything else under the sun. Tech-wise, I mean, you're taking over phone communications, basically. Landlines are just about toast. Leave text messaging be. People need an uncluttered communications channel for important stuff, like your family, like your mom's in the hospital, or you forgot to get milk at the grocery store, and I'm not saying those are equal, but God. Anyway, soapbox done. All right, so Earthday, I wanted to pull this little story out. It's American Wind Energy Association is reporting that Oklahoma wind generating capacity jumped nearly 13% in 2017. Okay, Oklahoma was one of at least 4 states to source at least 30% of its electricity needs from wind in 2017, during which it increased its installed wind capacity by 850 megawatts, or nearly 13% in 1 year, mind you, 13% in 1 year. So a little bit of good news out there. The link to the full story is up on the site, and I like to do a little bit more about the environmental stuff a little bit later in the video. Oops, my bad. I actually have the next thing in show notes is that one of my other longtime blogs is called the Great Lakes Zephyr Wind Energy and Hydrogen Journal. Yeah, I know it's a mouthful. I just made the title up off the cuff when I was living in the Great Lakes region. And I started that blog back in 2002. It's probably had about 3 or 4, maybe getting close to 300,000 hits on the thing since then. About 50 subscribers to it, longtime subscribers. And I don't really do a lot of running commentary on there. It's mostly just aggregation of stories on renewable energy and the environment. And I've been pulling stories and links from multiple sources around the web for years and years and years. And whenever I get a little bit of information, I pretty much send it over there electronic. It's all text. There's not much for video or audio on the site. And, you can get a weekly digest or daily or whatever you want. But, it's, news on the environment. And a lot of it tends to be positive, believe it or not. There's a lot of people working on really good things for the environment, and that's something I'm happy to be able to say on Earth Day. Not everything is good news, obviously. You hear all the bad news from the major media outlets all the time. So, it is what it is. And sad to say, the major trends are we're kind of in a tough spot, but there's hope. There is hope. So I find reasons to be hopeful all the time. So, real quick, I need another sip of coffee. I'm a little bit on the dry side. All this talking, I need to keep my whistle wet. So, Eric James, longtime friend of mine. We used to work kind of together on night shift. He was a guard in a data center where my office was for many years, and we had an occasional late night conversation when things were slow on rare occasion on all kinds of subjects, tech, geek, and otherwise. And I consider Eric a good friend, and He made a comment back to me on the Facebook group for Midwestern Geek in Cali. There is a Facebook discussion group. If you just search groups on Facebook, Midwestern Geek in Cali, you'll come up with it, and it's closed group. Closed group, and you do need approval to join, but that's just to keep things from getting too crazy. But you will be able to find it, and you can see all the comments and such. And Eric's comment was, now this is on the quantum brain story that I did a couple episodes back. Or actually, I think it was the last episode before this one. It's been a couple of days. I'm in drilling testing for CompTIA A+, and it's some pretty intense training, a lot of memorization. So I've been drilling pretty hard on that because I'm trying to get ready to test for certification within the next couple of weeks. Anyway, Eric's comment was interesting. There's no doubt that the brain/mind is much more than what it appears to be. Things like imagination and inspiration, instincts and reflexes, conscious and subconscious and unconscious, awareness, etc., are great mysteries. I'm glad that this is being explored by scientists, but even if they don't have these answers already, would they be willing to share such knowledge with the general public? Good question, Eric. I really don't know, because they might tend to keep some stuff close to the vest. It really depends on what they come up with. Eric goes on to say, I personally would like to know how consciousness is intertwined with life and death. What level of unconsciousness results in death? Or what level of consciousness is needed for life and subsequently self-awareness? For someone in a coma or vegetative state, can they be reached subconsciously, or are they self-aware? Answers that can be unlocked by the scientists' research, but again, I don't think that they would release this information fully, but I am hopeful. And here's what I want to reply. Consciousness is an interesting thing, and I do believe the brain is a quantum computer in a way, and I think the brain is interconnected to the quantum field of the universe, the universal intelligence. Now, I think that the human mind has to be the overt consciousness, the awake awareness consciousness. That has to be shielded, I think, firewalled, if you will, from the full connectivity to the quantum field of the universe. Because think about it, your intelligence, your awareness, your consciousness is no way going to be able to handle knowing all the time every last movement of every last subatomic particle in the universe, all the way from the small particle physics level all the way up to the largest macro scale of the universe, and how everything is moving and where it's all going and what's happening on every last bit of matter, dark matter, etc., whatever is going on in the entire universe. That much stuff would just plain freeze your brain. You're not gonna be able to handle that. So I think that there's more of a buffered connection to the quantum fields of the universe. And I think that if we focus and visualize and put emotion behind something, we can actually attract to us things that are of a similar nature and same kind of energy. But I don't think it's like instantaneous, like, hey, I'm thinking about a cup of coffee and it magically appears in my hand. Well, maybe that, but you kind of get where I'm going. It's not like an instantaneous kind of thing. It's not like a full blown someday you're going to be able to connect with the entire universe, because it would overload your brain. That part. Okay, given that no firewall blocks 100% of everything in the computing world, and I don't think that's the case in the case of the human brain. All right? With the human mind, I think the subconscious is actually a shared intelligence between all human beings. And this is why I think that. I've done online poetry for years and years and years. Probably as long as I've been doing the environmental blog or so, right around the same time, I think. 2000, 2002, somewhere in there. Published about 1,700 poems, 1,800, somewhere in that neighborhood online, all different subject matter. Now, it's not all romantic stuff. No. If you think about it, the entire universe can fit inside the lines of a poem. People limit poetry too much. It's wordplay. It's getting feelings and picking the minutia of life and magnifying it to take a closer look at it, and all kinds of things. Poetry is not limited to romance, but it's also a romance for our existence in a way. It's complex and fun and cool, but by the same token, it's emotional and it's more subconscious, is what I'm getting at. And I have been on online poetry boards with other poets for decades, and I have seen way more than one instance where 2, 3, or 4 poets would come out with poetry on very similar topics and with very similar themes within days of each other. Repeatedly, I've seen this happen. So I think that the subconscious mind is connected to other minds of a similar nature, like if you're on the same wavelength, but it's firewalled. Most people do not have a direct conscious connection to other people's minds with their waking awareness. But on a lower level, on a deeper level, we are connected. And whether it's from quantum entanglement or whatever it is, there's a connection there. I know that. And I don't know how to explain it. I just know that it is because I've experienced it. And it's not like, hey, I can go read this person's thoughts, but they might be writing about an albatross following a sailboat on the ocean at the same time I'm writing about a mermaid following a sailboat on the ocean who's friends with an albatross, or something along those lines. It's like the same, we're in tune with the same theme, so to speak. So it's a little wiggly, wobbly, kind of loosely connected, similar visuals, feelings, stuff like that kind of bleeds through. It's not like, hey, I know you were thinking about an albatross and writing about it, so I'm going to write about it. Don't work that way. So I think that when it comes to death, Eric, I think that the mind, the conscious mind, is going to have been part of the quantum intelligence field of the entire universe for long enough in most lifetimes that some way, some form of it is going to continue. If nothing else, short of a black hole, I don't think information is ever truly lost. And I think that it's entirely possible that after death, we become pure energy beings free to roam the universe, unembodied. And I don't know. I don't know, but I have a feeling that that's going to be the way it turns out to be. And I think that what God really is the quantum intelligence field of the entire universe. It's not some little old dude in the sky. It is an intelligence that operates the entire universe, a mind so vast that it actually can run and know in a way that is way beyond anything like knowing is for us. What's happening with every little piece of the universe all at one time. But for a mind that vast to just stop and focus on one little thing, what happens to the rest of the universe when that mind stops focusing on everything and just zeroes in on one little person? I think this is why, visualizing and feeling and desiring things and manifesting them is nowhere near instantaneous and takes a lot of work, because we're probably all just little facets, little splinters of that cosmic mind, if you will. That's what I think. Anyway, on that note, it's kind of late. I got to get my butt up for school tomorrow and go drill a bunch of practice tests and try to memorize some more obscure technological factoids and all that kind of fun. And meanwhile, everybody, thank you for listening, and happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. And by the way, I have a new follower on YouTube who actually got a hold of me, and we had a bit of a conversation, and it was a very good conversation, and you know who you are out there. I just wanted to say thanks for the encouragement and some very interesting ideas, and I'm thinking about that. I'm chewing on that, on what we talked about in the back of my mind, looking for ways that I can incorporate some of what we talked about, because I had been thinking about a few things along the same lines in some ways. But again, thank you for the conversation. It was very good, and we'll talk again. And on that note, good night. And everyone, thank you for watching or listening or whatever. And I'll be back again soon.